somewhere along the line, it became you go outside and you shoot vistas. And there are plenty of vistas in Quentin's film, and there's a few in The Master. But by and large, you're right. They're kind of these interior films. And that's okay, because, I mean, when you see those performances, to me, I mean, when I see Quentin's film and you see the staging that he's able to do in this claustrophobic room, I mean, it feels epic to me. It's pretty interior, but it's still epic when you've got someone occupying the far right of frame, and you don't know what's going on with them, and you've got somebody in the middle and somebody over here, and the way he staged it all seemed only possible in this format. That said, I could probably see it on a black and white TV and still love it, you know, right. But, because I think it just works as a film.
For you.
Well, you know, it just made me think of something, though, like, that the best special effect you can have is a great actor. Like, Sam Jackson is a better special effect than any fucking special effect. You know what I mean? Exactly right. Jennifer Jason Leigh is better, that beats a fucking spaceship any day. I mean, right. She just is a special effect of her own. So seeing this large format, and you're right, because it is sort of, I guess, places like the Arrow, it was places like revival places that were keeping 70mm alive, that you knew you could walk in there and somebody would know how to run the gear and they could present it well. So we were kind of searching out those places exclusively. It was also clear that people were coming out for that more than they were coming out for the 35 or the DCP. Mm-hmm. They were searching it out. It was one of those things. I didn't really know what it was, I think, when I probably first saw 70mm. It was like, I don't know what that is, but I want to see it, because they've made it appear as if I should. I would be in the big theaters watching it and catching it that way and going, whatever this is, I want more of it. This feels amazing.
The Searchers as well.
Oh my gosh,
yeah, use of the large screen format, VistaVision. How was VistaVision so important for you? Was it like a statement, a love letter to the way of making films?
Sure. I mean, I had obviously, you know, when you see films and you start to see a pattern of what you like visually, you put a few pieces together. You say, well, hang on. That was VistaVision, that was VistaVision, and you understand. And looking into it, it's so versatile because it's a large format, but it's also more compact than an IMAX camera. It's not as loud, so it could blow up gigantic and big to IMAX and really fit that format, but it also could fit quite nicely in other formats, right? So it was very versatile for us. And yeah, to be using some of the same cameras that they would have been using for these, you know, you have to say, well, if it was good enough for them, it's got to be good enough for us. And obviously, this is one of my favorite films that I have ever seen, and I keep thinking about it. Never is far away from my mind.
You know, I don't know how many fans there are of The Searchers here, but, you know, my whole life I've been trying to get, if you could get a moment half as good as John Wayne finding Natalie Wood and you think he's going to kill her, but he kind of picks her up and takes her home. There's that kind of impact out in the desert. I thought, wow, if I could get anywhere near that, I might be lucky.
Yeah. You know, but it's also kind of a John Ford thing to have somebody to stop and start singing and dancing in a movie. It was just like every John Ford movie.
It's The Searchers? I mean,
I can't remember what director it was. It might have been Frank Capra. Somebody was saying something about John Ford, and he said, oh, Ford. When he doesn't know what to do, he just casts really long shadows or have people start singing and dancing. And now that I've said this to you, it's going to get in your head every time you see a John Ford movie. You're like, there's those shadows. Why are they singing? Everybody's dancing.
Okay.
And then he gets back to the plot again. About some of the filmmaking stuff that Jonathan was talking about, which he's right. You know, sometimes just seeing the guys trying to get on the horse. And that's just like classic Bob Downey too, because well, it really looks like they're falling off. It doesn't really look like they're trying to push it too much. And there's a real gracefulness about it because there's the closer shot where it is one shot, and then they cut to the wider one, or the long lens one. And it doesn't. That's actually one that goes on a little bit long, but there's no extra crazy Foley or bumps or anything else. It's all very kind of silent and little shush shush and things, little sounds like this that make it even funnier. But probably more cinematic just because it looks like they're outside of like New York City, you know, where all of his stuff before was, and you felt like you were in apartments and streets and found locations. But it's not as if suddenly he got a budget and went out to the desert and wildly changed his filmmaking style. It was like he just transplanted his style from his friends' bedrooms in the streets of New York to the middle of New Mexico and had a set built and things like that. And that's what's so cool is that it wasn't like suddenly here's this cash and I'm completely changing my style or venue. It's sort of like, no, you know, you could just see Bob with his New York accent in the middle of New Mexico with these cowboys like, oh, and put the camera over here. The way he talks, you know, is very New York. But so, is it more cinematic? Maybe a bit more because it's open spaces and things like that. But it's still the same ridiculousness and insanity, which is so, the content-wise, it's so him that it's funny. That's what makes this pretty neat.